Hey, well, folks, I'm back here today with a demo how-to for the James McMurtry song "For All I Know," which comes off of his 1997 release, "It Had to Happen." This is a crowd favorite. James has been playing it out live for a long, long time. He played it plenty during the pandemic live streams, and I know it's one a lot of McMurtry fans who play guitar want to play. So here we are. Let's go ahead and do my usual breakdown here. First things first, we got to talk about the tuning. This one's in double drop D with the capo on the second position. And like always, I'm not going to be subtracting 2 frets from all. I'm just going to call that a D and that an A and so forth. I do have one of my original demos, link in the description below, for the way James uses double drop D in general. So you'll find a lot more about how that configuration is set up in that thing below, and I won't repeat it here. Now, so what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about the shapes that we're going to need to get under control for this song. And then there are 3 main sections that we'll break down one at a time, that when you put them all back together, work for the song. So let's start with the shapes. First of all, here in the, we're going to call this a double drop D configuration. Got your home D here. You can do it one of 2 ways, either first and third like this, or second and third like this. I'm going to be doing it that way because we're going to be doing this. We'll come back to that in a second. The next shape is that very thing. Let's just go right to that. And that is basically a G chord with 1 finger. Even if that creeps in, it's okay. Another way to make the G, of course, is like this. And we'll be doing that as well. So we'll have that and that. And then there's the A shape, which you just lay your index finger down. Most of the time on this, you're going to want to be doing it that way instead of like so. And then, of course, the good news when you're in double drop D is you can go all 4. You got a perfect good chord there. All right, and the last shapes that come into this song are what I have been referring to in my little demos here as the No More Buffalo Walk Down, because it uses the shape that James uses in a bunch of songs, but to me most memorably in No More Buffalo. So that's the walk down. Okay, so we start with the G shape, which is the 2 fingers here on the 5th position, and then we just drop 1 finger down to the 4th position here. And obviously you just do all the strings and then it sounds very good, but you just got to kind of deaden the rest with your hand here. Don't just, and only really try to strum on the bottom strings when you do that. This will become more obvious when we just get to that section. Okay, let's now start with the little introduction riff he does on the studio recording, because that same, where we're going to go for that, will also work during the little instrumental breaks that James does when he solos during the song. And what we're going to do here is we're going to come all the way up here to the 7th position. And again, just like the A here, slide it all the way up. And then what he's doing there is on the 5th string in the 8th and 9th position, he's going. If you remember the song from the very beginning of that. That's how he does it. But you're really looking for this note. Whatever. Last time I saw you. All right, so that's how a little introduction. And then we're going to come back to that in a minute when we talk about the little lead he does in between a couple of the verses and choruses. All right, let's now talk about the verse structure. And it's we're going to be in this home D. Last time I saw you. So you're starting the D and you're just kind of going like that, or you can leave this guy, you can leave that fellow right there if you like. In fact, if you do that, it makes it easier to stick with the 1 and 3 if that's what you're used to doing for that home position. I do it both ways. I probably spend more time like this. Last time I saw you. That way, all you got to do is lift up and bring it over to the other string. Okay. Okay, so we're starting with those things, and then we're also doing that. All right, so that's the big G, if you want to call it, going to the A. And notice that I'm pretty sure this is how it is every time he plays it, but the tempo is not quite the same in those two repetitions of that figure. Notice it's kind of a delay to get to the A the first time. Where the second time goes there soon. All right, now let's play the whole verse thing all the way through. Last time I saw you, could have been Christmas Eve, could have been someone's birthday, could have been make-believe. For all I know, could have been make-believe. Into either the next verse or the chorus, depending on where you are in the song. They're the same each time, so we won't need to do it again. So now let's go into the chorus figures. So let's go ahead from the third verse. Of course, you had that boyfriend with the Chevrolet. You never met Will Rogers. I'd be willing to stay. It's safe to say he never met Will Rogers. All right. Now, when we start the chorus from that, we're going to go. Yes, it must have been 1,000 years. Okay, so when you're coming out of that D, just go. Okay, so you just get that little extra bass line going into that. So let's go ahead and do the chorus. Yes, it must have been 1,000 years, G and A, since what changed my number back to D. Does it walk down? No more Buffalo walk down. G mean a thing when the down to this phone don't ring, and then to the A, and it don't call back. Can't help but wonder sometimes. Back to the verse. All right, so let's go ahead. I'll do the chorus all the way through. Yes, it must have been 1,000 years since I changed my number. Does it mean a thing when the phone don't ring and I don't call back? Can't help but wonder sometimes. I never got to know you. All right, so just keep going with that back and forth thing. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is we're going to come back to the figures we were using for the intro, because that's where you can do lots of vamping for a solo during the solo section. So after, let's see, where does he do that? He goes 3 verses, a chorus, a verse, and then he goes into this jam, which is over the verse chords. So it's now on the record, of course, he does his own particular thing. But that's what I want to point out to you here. When you've got your finger like so, you've got all this. All you got to do is leave it there and work with these other guys more or less in the same 2 frets higher than the bar. All right, so it's except for this note, and you're in there. So whatever you want to do when you're soloing in you're just right there. That's one of the things I love about this tuning. It makes some of that stuff super easy. Okay, so let's recap. We've talked about the intro and that lead section there. Those are the same basic figures with your hands. We've talked about the verse setup, the chorus setup, and how they kind of transition back and forth. So that's pretty much it for the whole tune. As always, I hope these are useful. Thanks very much for all the positive feedback. folks send saying how helpful they find these. I really, really appreciate that. It really does the whole heart good here. So once again, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.